Joe, what do you make of the tone of the video as well? Not only the words, but how they were saying them.
It's a very somber tone.
Right.
It's not like they were excited, like, they were upbeat to get her back. I mean, the body language from the first video into the second video is very telling as well. And I really feel that, this person or persons, all right, they had some inside help to know what was going on, when to do this. And the other side of this is that this could be very well, it could be AI generated as well, because if you look at the way AI is working these days, and I received an email about this, this is very, there's threads that they can go on with this. But, I'm glad they're not putting out the whole story with this. Excuse me. I feel that they should keep everything close to the vest, especially when the family is hoping to get Miss Guthrie, returned to them no matter what. And, it's something that the FBI is very good at doing this. There's been a lot of question about the sheriff's department. Let's remember, they're not equipped to do something like this. They never handled anything like this before. So the FBI has definitely got the lead with this. And the fact that they keep going back and they keep going to both houses and they're retrieving, evidence from those areas, or, whatever they need to get, is very telling that, they could be very close to doing something with this.
There's also been reporting that law enforcement may have a car of interest. They've been focusing on some surveillance video from a nearby gas station. Jennifer, what do we know about that?
Well, I'm glad you asked me about that, because when you look at everything they did overnight, Brooke, listen, they were at Annie's house. That is the sister's house in the late night hours of the night for 3 solid hours. They were taking photographs inside there, and they had gloves on. That tells me that they are involved with evidence extraction and an evidence crime scene type look. In regard to that vehicle and that Circle K, that was located very close to Annie Guthrie's house. So I find all of this activity quite telling. When I talked about 2 kind of parallel investigations, the ransom note investigation, and then separate from that, it certainly seems like they are trying to figure out what's happening at Annie Guthrie's house.
Joe, I'll pose the last question to you here. Of course, we've been talking about these deadlines. There was a Thursday deadline, a 5 p.m. Thursday that came and went. There's another deadline, though, tomorrow. What happens next? And I guess, what would you advise the family to do? What are investigators doing as we approach that deadline tomorrow?
I know the FBI is instructing them as to what to say, how to say it, because it's very important that, the language that's used isn't, pushing them to a different direction. So you want to show that you're cooperative with this, which the family is. It's just that the investigation is still ongoing. And I agree with this, with the last statement that was made about going to the house and going to Annie's house and everything. This is very telling. And, that's a small area that, I'm not saying small as far as, mileage and everything. What I'm saying is the tower over there would be a lot easier to ping off of a tower there than in New York City. So they can trace what was going on prior to that. And if everything keeps leading back to one direction, you stay in that direction, but you don't limit yourself to that direction. So I believe this deadline is a serious deadline, but I also think people are buying time.
My thanks again to Joe Cardinale and Jennifer Coffendorfer as we stay on top of the search for Nancy Guthrie.
My heart goes out to Nancy Guthrie. Something suspicious is going on there. Yes, the body language is a bit weird. Yes, the ransom note. Yes, the evidence they keep collecting from Annie's house as well as Nancy's. It's very disturbing. Let's give a moment of silence to Nancy Guthrie. Let's have a moment of silence for Nancy Guthrie as they search her home for evidence. I don't know what's going on with Annie, but she's looking pretty suspect to me, and that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. But let's just have a moment of silence for Nancy Guthrie at this moment. May the good Lord be with Nancy Guthrie. I don't know what's going on with Savannah's blinking, the awkwardness, the lack of. I don't want to overstep, but something's off. Something's off to me. And I don't like what I'm seeing. And it's been a week. Well, 8 days since they've last seen Nancy. 8 days since they've last seen her. I don't know what to think of this, but the new developments that's happening now are very disturbing. Because as you notice, they're not leaving Nancy's house. They're not leaving Annie Guthrie's house. Guys, pay attention to what's going on here. The investigation is happening at Nancy's house. You're going to see them in manholes. You're going to see them on the roof. You're going to see them in the garage. You're going to see them around the yard. This is highly disturbing. I don't know what to say. Check this out. The new developing story a week later is just pulling at my heart for Nancy. Something's up with her children. I don't know what to say about her children because I don't want to overstep. I don't want to be inconsiderate. I want to be compassionate. But something's going on. Hope you're enjoying the compilation of what's going on in the new development with Nancy Guthrie. At 84 years old, at 84 years old, there is no reason why she wasn't more protected. Where was Nancy Guthrie's security? Where is security? Please, where's security?
All right. Now, News Nation's Nancy Liu is tracking this story. She's on the ground there for us. Nancy, what's the latest?
Yeah, here on the ground outside Nancy Guthrie's house, we're seeing a bit of activity. We saw a sheriff's deputy pull up about half an hour ago, and then since then, we've had a couple more vehicles come up, and at least 1 or 2 investigators and a deputy going behind the house. And I personally saw one look to be like some kind of pole device, so it looks like they're searching behind the house for some reason. The sheriff's department not commenting on what's happening right now, but they have said repeatedly that this is an ongoing investigation. There are no suspects, there are no persons of interest, so that they would be coming back and forth from the house as this investigation goes on. Now, last night we saw a lot of activity at the home of Annie Guthrie, several miles away. We know that law enforcement was there inside the home. We saw flashes going off as if people were taking pictures inside, and we know that investigators were in there for at least 2-3 hours, and deputies were seen coming out wearing blue gloves, one carrying a brown bag. That was around 10:30 p.m. So it was a very long night of investigating. And here we are this morning, or today, seeing a little bit of renewed activity here at the home of Nancy Guthrie. Now, I believe we have a live picture also over at Annie Guthrie's home. Again, that's several miles away. We know that there has really been no activity over there. The cars are gone, and we are hearing that Savannah Guthrie and her siblings, they're now staying elsewhere, but we know that they've remained together. They've been largely sequestered through this horrible ordeal. And Anna, as you know, a second deadline that was mentioned in that first ransom letter, that is approaching tomorrow. And as we heard from Savannah's latest video, they have decided to pay the ransom. So it's been waiting and seeing out here, waiting to see if there's any kind of development of some sort. But again, we have renewed sheriff's deputy activity here at the home of Nancy Guthrie, but not a significant presence at this point. Anna?
Right, and in this latest video, you heard Savannah Guthrie, of course, the Today Show anchor, saying, "We will pay." Nancy, for our reporting here at News Nation, are we sharing what that number is that is demanded by these alleged abductors?
It had been reported by one of the local stations that had received that initial ransom letter, but that station then deleted that post. So out of respect for the family and the investigation, we are not reporting those details, and of course, hoping for a happy ending in this horrible situation.
And as you say, News Nation watched as there was activity there at Annie Guthrie's home. Do we know if they were inside the home at the time?
Yeah, we suspect that they were in the home at the time, but we know that as of now, there is nobody, we believe, at that home anymore. The car is gone, and we're hearing that they are staying at a home elsewhere, because there's quite a media presence over at that home as well as over here at Nancy Guthrie's home. And notably, right this hour marks exactly a week that Nancy Guthrie was reported missing. And then this entire incredible situation developed through this week. And of course, there's growing anxiety and concern, because we all know that 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, she has daily prescription medications, and she has been without them now for over a weekend.
Developments this morning in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Investigators returned to her home late last night, and they were also seen at the home of her daughter, Annie. This comes after the Guthrie family released yet another video statement addressing her potential captors. Christian Benavides shows you the latest.
Late Saturday, detectives returned to Nancy Guthrie's home. Investigators were also spotted at the home of her daughter, Annie Guthrie. It's unclear what prompted the law enforcement response, but it came shortly after the family released another video statement.
We received your message, and we understand.
In their posting, the Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie and her siblings took to social media to address a new message from the potential abductors.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Authorities have been working to verify the authenticity of two messages from the potential captors. On Friday, FBI agents removed the camera from Nancy Guthrie's roof and towed her car from her garage to examine it for potential fingerprints or other clues. CBS News has learned law enforcement is tracking down vehicles captured on surveillance cameras the night she disappeared, including at this gas station.
They cannot provide every bit of information that they receive until they get to a closer place of identifying where Ms. Guthrie is and the people that might have taken her.
According to a timeline provided by law enforcement, there was about a 41-minute window from the time the doorbell camera disconnected to when Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker app disconnected from her phone. Within this time frame, software detected movement at 2:12 a.m., but it wasn't recorded. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information. Christian Benavides, CBS News.
Now, the Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos now says that he would have called in other agencies, including the FBI, sooner and kept crime scene tape up longer to preserve that crime scene.
If you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you.
Savannah Guthrie with her siblings on Wednesday when they released their first video message to the public after the disappearance of their 84-year-old mother, Nancy, a week ago today. Saturday, late last night, they released a new message to whoever may be holding her. Fox News senior correspondent Alicia Acuna joins us outside Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson. Hello, Alicia.
Hi, Shannon. And that video is the family's third message pleading with whoever has their mom.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
The FBI tells the Associated Press when Savannah says in that video, quote, "We received your message," she is referencing a second alleged ransom note sent via email to local TV news station KOLD on Friday. KOLD says that email, which they have not released to the public, did not contain proof of life of Nancy Guthrie, something the family asked for in two videos they released earlier this week. Separately, KGUN 9, another local TV news outlet, which received one of the original three ransom notes, says the author demanded $6 million in Bitcoin, threatened Nancy Guthrie's life if it is not received by 5 p.m. Monday. Last night, investigators returned to Savannah's sister Annie's home. Our Fox News Digital reports they were inside for about 2.5 hours. Our team saw what appeared to be flashes coming from a camera in the garage and in another part of the house. As they left, a deputy was seen carrying a brown paper bag out of the house. It did not appear that any family members were at the house at that time. Last night, around 7 p.m., two sheriff's deputies arrived here at Nancy Guthrie's home. It is unclear why, but they were seen talking to the private security guard on site. The Fox flight team's video captured these images of someone in the back of the home searching with flashlights in the desert terrain. The FBI has now placed digital billboards in nearby states with Nancy Guthrie's photo. This one is in Albuquerque. The tip line is on there as well. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward in this case. The Pima County Sheriff's Department put out a statement saying it is aware of the Guthrie's most recent video. Right now, they're saying they have no suspects and no person of interest at this time. Shannon.
All right, Alicia Acuna reporting from Tucson. Alicia, thank you so much. Joining us now, former New York Police Department inspector and Fox News contributor Paul Morrow. Paul, great to have you with us. I have so many questions, but let's start with this latest video. I'm sure you've watched it, as we have multiple times. A lot shorter, with Savannah and her brother and sister. It seemed like the phrases were very specific, and even their body language, their pauses, their eyes looking down, it all seemed very coded almost. What did you take from that video?
Well, let's caveat things first, Shannon, and thank you for having me, that the task force knows a lot more than we do. And so we do have to be cautious as we try to read this language and parse out the meaning, because you're right, it did seem very, very coded. We have to recognize there's a lot of gamesmanship going on here. Now, there are, I think, a couple of things that are undeniable. For one, they're not asking for proof of life this time around. Whereas in the prior two videos, especially the second video that was made by Brother Cameron, he was unequivocal, saying, we can't pay unless we get some sort of proof of life. That seems to have gone away. So that is certainly a change. The second change is that they have said, we will pay. You heard Savannah say that at the end of the video, very, very emphatically. Those two things jump out to me, that there's a change of posture, certainly on the part of the Guthrie family. What it means, as I said, we have to be very, very cautious. Some of the language near the end gets very, very cryptic and not very encouraging. But there, like I said, could be some gamesmanship going on, messaging being sent, because we have to remember something. They don't know that they're talking to the people who actually have her.
Okay, so a couple of other things. The latest search was at Annie's house, her sister's house. Now, we're told that Annie and her husband were the last ones to spend time with her, to see her, to drop her off at her home last Saturday night. What do you make of the search at Annie's house?
You know, it's hard to say. I mean, I know there's all kinds of speculation that they went out there to take photographs at night, and that's when you photograph for luminol. Luminol is, and there are various other versions of it, but it is a substance that can pick up trace blood in a sort of phosphorescent way. You know, maybe not, whatever. They're taking photographs. They probably are trying to corroborate a story. Let's just remember the sheriff has been emphatic about the fact that he does not have any person of interest or any subject that they are really, really looking at hard, that they're looking at everybody. So it might just be a sign that they are chasing down every possible avenue here because, look, if you've done anything like this in the past as law enforcement, you know that generally a kidnap happens close to home. But that doesn't mean it happened that way this time. But they have to make sure that they run all the traps here because you don't want to look back and say, wow, if we had only. So I wouldn't read too much into it. We're all hyper-focused on this, and everything that happens seems to have very large import. We have to manage expectations.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly, this feels very local, very personal. I mean, the missives are going to local TV stations that you'd have to be familiar with.
Right.
There's talk of whether they're people who knew of her in her neighborhood, people who may have worked in the home or worked in the yard, knew something the way the cameras were taken out. What do you make of the sophistication or lack thereof with respect to what we're seeing play out now?
Well, it goes to what I was just saying. Either it's somebody who was pretty close or managed to get pretty close in some surreptitious way, or there was a lot of surveillance. There was a lot of recon. One of the things that, having been out there, walked the neighborhood, that did jump out at me is that is an area where you're not going to park on the street. And that white van that we've heard mention of that the New York Post reported on, I am sure they're pulling at that very, very hard. The road in that area that goes in front of the house, you almost can't get two cars simultaneously passing each other. It's not the kind of road that you're parking on the street routinely. So that is a mysterious thing that does potentially suggest some surveillance. The light in the back was broken. We know that the Nest camera was pulled out. All of these things argue some planning. You get that either from being around the house regularly or putting yourself there by doing some reconnaissance.
Yeah, and one of the neighbors talking about that white van as well. Paul Morrow, thank you so much. We know you're tracking this around the clock, and people can check in with what you're doing to see what's going on there. Paul, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we want to reiterate, if you have any information that could in any way help with this case, you can reach out to the tip line, 1-800-CALL FBI. And by the way, for Paul, we mentioned he is tracking this. Every day he is doing Missing Nancy Guthrie live on Fox Nation. It is streaming. There will be a new episode every day. Paul is on it. So stay tuned.
Okay, let's bring in Ted Williams, Fox News contributor, former D.C. homicide detective, and he is outside the sheriff's office there in Tucson. So, since we last talked to you 24 hours ago, what new do you see in terms of developments and where you think the investigation is right now?
Well, let me say good morning to you guys, and let me say, for some reason, I have a ray of hope here that they may very well be able to bring Nancy back to the Guthrie family. And that ray of hope is not in the $6 million, because remember, the FBI has always said that this was the Guthrie siblings' call as to whether the money would be paid. I have looked at this case in the sense that the FBI and the Guthrie family have asked for a proof of life, and I think the abductors have always attempted and are controlling the narrative in this case. And as a result of that, the one last word in the cryptic message that was sent by the Guthrie siblings yesterday, the last words, "We will pay." And so what I believe is that something happened either in that second note or there was a note after the second note, and there may have been something that had given the Guthrie family some optimism that they can bring their mother home with money. And money has never been the source of an object here. They've wanted just proof that Nancy is still here with us. But I think this is I'm very optimistic, should we say, that they may very well still be able to bring Nancy home to her loving siblings alive.
Ted, that is very interesting, and it's not the message we've gotten from all of our experts, so I'm super hopeful listening to what you're saying, that we will pay tells you that there's a strong possibility that she is alive. We also have been examining this recording. It was only about 22 seconds long from last night that Savannah Guthrie and her siblings gave. Every word was selected very deliberately, in my view, including the ones that you just brought up. There is a word that has left us a little perplexed. And Savannah used the word celebrate in this message. She said, "We will celebrate," I guess, upon a return. I don't have the exact sentence there. Were you surprised by that word? Because it seemed to jump out at all three of us.
Well, you know, that word, the celebrate, along with another word that was used in the message, or something to the effect, "This is our mother," it was somewhat cryptic. But I think the message was meant to be cryptic. Try to understand, Savannah makes her living with words. And so I would have to believe that she was sending a message with some specificity directly to the individuals holding her mother. And I'm hoping that they get the message, but I'm very, well, I shouldn't say very, but I am somewhat optimistic that this could.
Ted, can you guess what you think that means? I know it's cryptic and I know we don't know, but just based on your own experience, what do you think that means? What is that cryptic message with celebrate?
It could very well be one of two things: that we will celebrate because we have our mother back with us alive, or it could also, unfortunately, be that we will celebrate because we love our mother, and even in death, we continue to love our mother and we want to embrace her. It can mean several different things, guys, but I think the bottom line is I want to be more optimistic this morning. I'm hoping and praying that there's a final and a positive result in this case.
Yeah, the entire country feels that, Ted. Let me come back to the investigation and get your read on this part of it, and that is the investigators keep returning to Annie Guthrie's house. And we saw late yesterday they were back at Annie's house. Why do you think they keep returning there?
There's something going on about when she was dropped off. We know that Nancy on that Saturday night was alleged to have been dropped off by members of her family, and it appears as though it could have been Annie and her husband, but we don't know that directly. And I think that they're definitely looking, there's something that they believe that there may be a nexus of some information that Annie and her husband may very well be able to provide. But it's all part of the investigation. Try to remember, Griff and guys, they are keeping this investigation, meaning the feds and the local law enforcement, they're keeping everything, I think, very close to their vest. So this investigation has taken on a parallel track. One track, you have Savannah and her siblings saying, hey, we will pay to get our mother back one way or another. And on the other side, you have the investigation that will continue in this case. I do find that it's sophisticated that they're asking to be paid in Bitcoins. Normally in these investigations, when there's a kidnapping, the investigators want just money, and we're talking about the Benjamins, the American money. But there's something going on here that the captors are trying to send a signal even to law enforcement. We are smarter than you. We know that you all are setting up for our capture, and we're trying to evade that. And we're trying to evade it vis-a-vis getting money, but get it vis-a-vis Bitcoins rather than American money.
So, Ted, you've been around cops all your life. You know how to read cops. Do you get any sense from talking to your sources on the ground there that there might be a crime scene or crime scenes elsewhere that the media is not aware of?
Yeah, I am getting that kind of a feeling. I've talked to several individuals here on the ground, and while they're not directly giving me any information, I think that there is that hope, and unfortunately, that there may very well be a crime scene elsewhere, and they're checking any and everything out.
Ted, I want to go back to what Griff brought up, which is the return again and again over to Annie's house, Savannah's sister's house. We know that Annie and her husband, Tommaso, were the last people to have seen Nancy Guthrie other than the abductors. They were bringing her home from dinner to her home, although it's not clear if they did that together or individually and which one is the one who actually dropped them off. In all of that we've seen over the last week of coverage, we've not really heard from Tommaso. Is that unusual? Is he a person of, I don't believe he's a person of interest, but is it strange that we haven't seen him sit alongside of the siblings, that we haven't seen any interviews with him at all? Is that unusual?
Well, I won't say it's unusual, but the fact that there have been some focus, specifically in the media, toward that gentleman, I would have expected by now that he would have come out, or someone would have come out on his behalf and let it be known that he has absolutely nothing to do with Nancy having gone missing. And again, I want to make sure we are clear here. I'm not casting any aspersions that he's involved in anything, but I also believe that family members must go through what I define as a process of elimination. Griff Jenkins is very aware of this. He and I have done these investigations in the past.
That's exactly right, Ted. Everyone is a suspect until they've been eliminated. And of course, family members are closest to it. Ted Williams, great to have you on the ground there. We'll check back in with you throughout the morning. Keep up the great reporting.
Excellent reporting, Ted. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
And let's bring in the aforementioned senior correspondent, Alicia Acuna, outside the home there. Alicia, we're watching these pictures from the Fox flight team. Clearly, there is something happening over there. We don't know exactly the nature of it. What can you tell us from your vantage point?
Hi, Kevin. I can set the scene here for you. About an hour and a half ago, we had a sheriff's deputy come up, park in front of the home. That caught everyone's attention. Now, not too long ago, within the last 20 minutes or so, we saw an unmarked vehicle with law enforcement drive up. The two spoke, they got back in their cars, and then we saw yet a third member of law enforcement walk up. 3 people walked to the back, 2 to 3 people walked to the back, and you can see them now. And they are what our drone team is describing to us. The Fox flight team is describing this as possibly a manhole. I heard Jonathan say that it could be some sort of water drainage. Either one of those is possible. We're not quite sure. But they've been poking around in there, almost like they're looking for a sample of some sort. Looking into this area. We've been kept back just a bit, actually. Usually when they have some sort of activity here at the site of Nancy Guthrie's home, we're often pushed back. The media is pushed back so they can do their job. Clearly, they're not concerned about that right now because we've all been allowed to stay as law enforcement continues its work to the back. Kevin?
Let me ask you about the searches that were happening, Alicia, Saturday over at the home of Annie Guthrie. Have you heard anything about the nature of those searches?
Everything we've gotten has been from our Fox Digital team. They were on site when about 4.5 hours after Savannah Guthrie and her siblings released that most recent video. They arrived at that home. They were there for about 2.5 hours. And according to our Fox team on the ground there, they could see, they could hear clanking of some noise being made. They could also see in the garage area what seemed to be flashes of light coming from a camera. And then they noticed in another whole opposite side of the house, we don't know if it was a bedroom, but it was definitely a different room, they started seeing flashing lights, camera flashes, they assumed as well. They also noticed that someone inside the home put up something to cover the window, probably as to, to keep the media from knowing exactly what they were doing. They were in there for quite some time, Kevin. Also, one of the agents was seen walking out. He had latex gloves on. They had a white folding table. They also carried out, one of the agents, a brown paper bag. We obviously don't know what's in it, but when you look at those types of behaviors and what law enforcement was doing there for so long, the family wasn't there, we understand. The question is, was this evidence collection? Because the behaviors there, if you go back to any other case that you've covered, Kevin, you and I both, that looks and sounds a lot like evidence collection. As Jonathan mentioned, the Sheriff's Department reiterates, just as this is happening, that they will not be holding a news conference, that they won't be coming forward with any new information at this time. They still don't have a vehicle of interest, and they still don't have a person of interest. However, there is a tremendous amount of evidence collection going on. Obviously, there is a tremendous amount of activity happening as well. We have not had a news conference from the Sheriff of Pima County since Thursday.
And I understand if the pictures were accurate that apparently someone in leadership over there was at a basketball game, which is probably not the best look for the department, but I'm not certain if that's actually been verified. But let me ask you while we have you, Alicia, I know that local news has been a bit of a repository for information regarding alleged demands, alleged requests made. Is that also happening in local Spanish TV, to your knowledge? And what, if anything, can we glean from the fact that the alleged abductors continue to be working at least somewhat to get the word out to local media?
It is interesting, isn't it, Kevin? Because obviously the kidnapping of Savannah Guthrie, an NBC News star, her mother, was going to garner national attention. And whoever's behind this decided to reach out to, as far as we know, 2 local TV stations here in the Tucson area. In addition to TMZ, they did not reach out to NBC, the employer of Savannah Guthrie. So only the person who's done this knows what the thinking is behind that, why those 2 local stations. There are other stations here. You asked about Spanish language. I cannot answer that question. I do not know. But it is compelling. And one of the stations received yet a second note. They did not release it to the public. They did tell us, though, one of their hosts went on one of the other networks and said that that note did not contain proof of life. It did not contain another deadline. And they really didn't go into much more detail.
Yeah, and that's the part that obviously the family is so desperate to see. We want to see proof of life so that, and again, they said in the video that we played, listen, we'll pay. We just want Nancy back. Stay on it for us, Alicia Acuna. We appreciate you.